Common Enchev, Tom Castleman, Drew Brackett. Another big show today. We'll look at the next round of the NBA playoffs, even talk soccer, tennis, Roger Federer behind me, all that and more, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting show. We're probably talking a little bit more football than I would like, but we'll be talking some football as well with a big deal in the NFL. Pretty shattering on that front.
Oh, picking it up with the association. We have second round of the playoffs just about to begin, and the Jazz will play the Clippers. Guys, what do you think of this series, Common?
Yeah, first off, real quickly, just to set the stage for this next round in the NBA playoffs, of the 8 playoff teams left, first off, none of the 4 in the Western Conference have ever won a championship. 0 even finals appearances, none for the Nuggets or Clippers. And the Jazz have gotten there, the Suns have gotten there, but they've never won. The Atlanta Hawks won NBA title in 1958 when they were the St. Louis Hawks. 2 ABA titles for the Nets, but no NBA titles. The Bucks just won in 1971. The 76ers last one in 1983. So either way, we're going to have a new champion this year. As far as the Jazz-Clippers series, the Jazz won 2 out of 3 this year in the regular season, including the only home game these two teams played at Utah. Jazz 52-20, Clippers 47-25. It's going to be a great series. On paper, the Jazz have more depth. They've got Gobert, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, Conley. And, of course, the Clippers have the top superstars in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. You can make a case for them having the 2 best players in this series, although, of course, Donovan Mitchell is underrated, so maybe he's better than Paul George, but you can go either way with those guys. But it's going to be a very, very close series. This one definitely could go 7 for sure.
Absolutely, and Common and I are going to be teaming up on this one, I think, where I'm sticking with Utah. I'm going anti-LA, which I'm sure he'll be glad to hear for round 2. Utah looked pretty convincing against Memphis once they got their best player, Donovan Mitchell, back after he sat out game 1 with that ankle injury. Only at one point in time after Mitchell came back did the Jazz win by fewer than 10 points. And their only loss without Mitchell, their best player, it was only 3 points to Memphis. They put up 120 points each night at full strength against a top 10 defense for the Grizzlies. So that's no small feat at all. I feel pretty good about the Jazz bucking the super team trend and making it to the conference finals. If I had to put a number on it, I would say probably Jazz in 6. But also LA's done really, really well on the road. It's going to be a competitive, tough series through and through. And another classic matchup of does the top player or 2 win, or does the overall system and depth win out is going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I guess my mind says to pick the Jazz, but I'll take the Clippers in 7.
Yeah, so real quickly as to that note, by the way, I knew that Drew was going Clippers, Tom was going Jazz. So that was, like you said, Tom, we knew what was going to happen.
Those are our Western Conference picks, if I remember correctly. I think Drew had the Clippers and I had Jazz to start.
There you go.
Sounds about right, Drew?
Sounds about right to me.
I'll be honest, Tom. I think Drew has flip-flopped his picks more than I can remember. I don't know who he had at this point. I know he has the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, as far as this series goes, you did mention the Clippers have played really well on the road. But the Jazz had the best home record in the league, the best overall record in the league. And Donovan Mitchell has been just phenomenal in the playoffs the last 2 years. I know last year they blew that 3-1 lead, but he was scoring about 40 a game, had several 50-point games. He's a man on a mission. We talked about this at the All-Star break. The All-Star team, the last 2 guys that were picked were actually Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Then Mike Conley got in because someone sat out. So this is a classic case of a team that has something to prove. And, I mean, they're coming off a relatively easy series. They completely dominated Memphis after that first game. The Clippers had a tough 7-game series. They were very fortunate to win that series. So I like the Jazz. I like their depth. And I like just the mentality that they bring. They were one of those teams that went for it all season long. They didn't rest their starters. They won the games And now is when it matters. Now they've got the home court and the Clippers resting all those guys. I think it finally catches up to them. The Clippers have never made the NBA Finals. I don't even think they've made the Western Conference Finals. And I don't think it's going to start now. Give me the Jazz and those former Mizzou connections. A former Mizzou player in Jordan Clarkson, Mizzou coach in Quinn Snyder. And by the way, Quinn Snyder is a better coach than Tyronn Lue, in case you're wondering. That's another area where the Jazz, I think, have an advantage. As far as the players, they've got the home court, they've got the fans, and they've got the coaching edge for me. Definitely the bench edge with Jordan Clarkson, who's perennial sixth man of the year candidate. So Jazz in a close series, 6 or 7. Like, I agree, Tom. Could go either way.
Oh man, Ty Lue's the coach. Oh, I thought it was still Doc Rivers. That's an issue on my part. Oh well. Well, moving on to the Nugget Sun Series. Looks like the Suns are favored by 5 in Game 1 in Phoenix. 10 o'clock Eastern start time, please. My goodness, that's late. What do you think, Common?
Well, I know one guy who won't be watching that game. That's Drew Brackett. It's bedtime already at that point. I'm looking forward to that game. This is a very, very tight series. I think of the 4 remaining series, to me, this is the toughest one to pick. By the way, these two teams met 3 times in the regular season. 2 of those 3 went to overtime. One of them going to double overtime. That's sort of indicative of how good, how evenly matched these teams are. I know we've talked about the injury to Jamal Murray, but honestly, the Nuggets might actually be better without him, at least in the short-term basis. They've done so good without him. Michael Porter Jr. has really, really stepped up. Again, this is kind of similar to the other series, Tom, where Jokic is the best player in this series. No question, no doubt about it. Porter's a solid number 2, but I like the Suns' depth. They beat the Lakers. Yes, a big part of the reason was Davis didn't play or Davis played hurt. LeBron clearly wasn't 100%. But on the other side, the Suns, Chris Paul was banged up, didn't play a good series, didn't average double figures. And I was questioning how their young guys would do. Well, Devin Booker was scoring nearly 30 a game in that series. I think he had a 47-point game when it all mattered. DeAndre Ayton, 16 and 10, shot nearly 80% from the field. So I actually like the Suns' depth more in this series than Denver's depth. I like the Suns' defense more than Denver's defense. So, I mean, this could go Denver's way. They've constantly been counted out, by me, by everyone the last 2 years, and they keep delivering. But ultimately, I said at the start of the playoffs, the winner between the Suns or Lakers makes the NBA Finals. I'm going to have to stick with that. Also, 2 weeks into the season, I said the Suns would get the 2 seed, which they did. I also said they would make the Western Conference Finals. So I got to go with the Suns. That's been my team all year. I thought it'd be Suns-Lakers, of course. They met up a little earlier than expected, but I like Phoenix in a close series.
Yeah, I really like the way the Suns are playing as well, but they're going to be in for a really tough series against Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. The difference between the Nuggets and the Lakers is that the Lakers were fresh off of their injuries with Anthony Davis and LeBron James recovering. The Nuggets have had some time to gel with Jamal Murray being out. I think the big difference for Denver is that they're still going up against a team that has an amazing scorer in Devin Booker after they just got done with the series with Dame Lillard. But unlike the Lakers, the Suns play really good defense, another top 10 defense in the NBA Association this year. So I think it's not really easy for a team to try to guard Jokic, but I think he's a little bit better matchup given that he's not as athletically gifted as Anthony Davis is. So it's going to be a tough series, but I think I see Phoenix coming out of this one also in 6. I think they're just going to be their depth, their defense is too much for Denver in this series.
I don't know. I think that Jokic proves some problems. I think he's going to play DeAndre Ayton in this series. So I think advantage Jokic there. But you're right. The rest of the Suns team is a very good defensive team. So, yeah, I think probably the Suns in 6.
Yeah, we're kind of all on the same page. I think it might go 7, but I'll tell you this. DeAndre Ayton, granted, Anthony Davis was banged up, but that was kind of what we looked at as a mismatch in that series. And he's not going to outplay Jokic. That's not going to happen. We know that. But if he could keep it even somewhat close, I like Phoenix's other guys. I mean, that guy really has proven to be a man. And he was a number 1 overall pick. He's a very talented player. So I would say it's one of the toughest matchups that Jokic is going to face all year, because Ayton's a good defender, very good rebounder. I think it's a tough matchup for Denver. I like what Phoenix does, and I just think this is going to be one of those CP3 series. I think he's going to get back healthy. I think he's going to dominate this series. He's going to show us what he's all about, and he's going to maybe land himself some more State Farm commercials if he makes the NBA Finals. Look out for that, because CP3 is a good player. He is the man, and he's due for NBA championship. I am all aboard as far as who I want to win. I want Phoenix to win this for Chris Paul. You guys know Chris Paul is probably my 3rd or 4th favorite player in the league. You know, you guys know Curry and LeBron. You guys know Luka. I love Luka. But all those guys are gone. Chris Paul is my favorite guy left standing. And unlike some of those guys, he's never won a championship. He's, to me, the most underrated player in the history of the basketball. There's no player that's been more underrated. He's going to be a guy that's top 5 in assists. He plays defense. He shoots a high percentage. I mean, he's everything I'm looking for. A well-rounded player that shoots a high field goal percentage, that has a good assist to turnover ratio, a leader. I mean, he's everything I want in a basketball player. CP3, and he's short, a short guy that dominates the NBA. I mean, how could you not cheer for this guy? He's awesome.
Wow. Well, there you go. We'll go to another.
We weren't expecting a flowery ode to Chris Paul today. I didn't have that one on the books.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll salute to the Demon Deacon. Absolutely. I have no issue with Chris Paul. You're right. He is awesome. I was going to transition to the Hawks, but we'll go to the Bucks Nets, because that's what's next. As game 1 here in about an hour on Tuesday night. Game two. Nets won game 1. Harden gets hurt. How does that change things, Common?
I don't think it changes things all that much. And we'll have more on locks of the week. Write down a mortgage bet, like whatever you want to do. Somehow the Bucks are like 1-point favorites in this game too. I don't even get how that's humanly possible, because James Harden played 1 minute in game 1. The Nets beat the Bucks without James Harden by 8 points. I mean, and it's a home game for the Nets. Like, I don't even know how Milwaukee's favored in that game. Does Vegas actually think Milwaukee's going to win this series? Because I certainly don't. I think even without James Harden there, you look at Giannis and Kevin Durant. Who's better? Kevin Durant is better than Giannis. He can shoot the ball. He's not just a transition player that dunks the ball. He can shoot the 3 ball. You look at the number 2 options, Kyrie Irving or Chris Middleton. I mean, I'm taking Kyrie Irving. This is a multi-time champion, having arguably the best season of his career. And Milwaukee has decent role players, but they're not amazing. Honestly, Joe Harris, the guy can light it up. Jeff Green has so much playoff experience. I like the Nets roster better even without James Harden. At this point in the playoffs, we talked about it. We've got a lot of unproven teams. I actually think this Nets roster, as is without James Harden, probably the favorite to win the NBA Finals, even if he doesn't come back. And they are saying supposedly it's not that serious, but given that it's a hamstring injury, I don't know. But he could still come back later in this series. But even if he doesn't come back, I like the Nets in game 2, and I like the Nets in the series.
How wild is it that somebody who's being talked about, at least nominally, as an MVP candidate in James Harden is out potentially for the entire series, and Common says it doesn't really matter that much. What an embarrassment of riches for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like, I mean, I obviously think it's a really big impact. It makes me say Nets in 7, Nets in a close 7, because Milwaukee's going to shoot the ball better the rest of the series. I think the role players are going to step up a bit. And I think we're going to see, for whatever reason, role players seem to do a bit better when they're at home. So we'll have to see those 2 games in Milwaukee, which Milwaukee won all of their home games this season, or in the regular season, against the Nets. And I said prior to the series that the Bucks have never faced a full Nets team. Well, they're not going to face a full Nets team now, for crying aloud. This series just got a lot more interesting, perhaps the most compelling, toughest one to pick. I think James Harden makes a bigger of a difference with his loss. But I think it's going to go to 7 games. I'm going to stick with the Nets, but it's far, far, far from a sure thing.
Yeah, Tom, before Drew goes real quickly, you did have the Nets when we did our preseason predictions. That's before they had James Harden. So
that was with a calculated guess that they would be acquiring him. Yes.
Oh, calculation Castleman. Drew, meanwhile, is all aboard the Bucks train. He's had the Bucks winning it all about the last 2, maybe 3 years. No James Harden. Drew, you must be feeling pretty good about your Milwaukee Bucks. That's his adopted team, by the way.
Well, sure, yeah, and clearly Harden's worth about 6 points to the spread, which is a decent amount in my opinion. So, the fact that the Bucks are favored on the road means something. Only by 1 though, so it is a toss-up. I think the Bucks will probably win Game 2 tonight. But yeah, I'll take the Bucks. I'll probably go 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, it's just one of those lines that just I don't know. Yeah, it may be too good to be true, but that line just screams. I mean, because the Nets won by 8 without James Harden. I agree, obviously, with James Harden, they'd be better. I actually thought the opening line, to me, Game 1 should have been about 7 to 8 points, which is what the Nets won by. I think now we should be looking at about a 3 or 4 point line without James Harden. But the fact that James Harden isn't playing and the Bucks are favored, and this line moved. It was actually Nets minus 1.5 a couple days ago, so it's moved 2.5 points. And I wonder if a lot of Milwaukee fans or a lot of neutrals are all of a sudden feeling confident. I don't know. I don't know what's happened. I mean, we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a good series. Giannis is going to have to play amazing. Chris Middleton is going to have to be amazing too. They need their 2 best players to play at their best level. Giannis was very good in Game 1. Chris Middleton, not so much. Not so much. And the thing about Milwaukee that I don't like is their defense isn't that good. I would feel better about Milwaukee if they played better on defense. Unless you're a great defensive team, shutting down Durant and Irving is pretty hard to do. So that's one area where I think that Milwaukee's not necessarily the best matchup. The Nets are not the best matchup for them personally. But we'll see. We'll see. Milwaukee's very hot and cold from 3. Last time on this show, when Tom Castleman said the Bucks are coming off a cold 3-point shooting game, expect them to get hot the next game, they made about 20-something threes, at least 10 in the first half alone. So maybe Milwaukee has a chance because of Tom Castleman's good luck charm.
I love it.
Not.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, moving on to the other Eastern Conference matchup. 76ers and the Hawks. The Hawks stole Game 1. Trae Young, 35 points, 10 assists, putting on a clinic. Common, does that flip your pick to the Sixers?
This is actually
the Hawks, I should say.
Yeah, I know what you meant. This is probably one of the tougher series. It's funny how Tom said the Nets Bucks to him is maybe the toughest. I thought that's the easiest series to pick personally. This series I would have had maybe as the second easiest when it got started, but I might move it to the second hardest. Just because Atlanta, by the way, these 2 teams, the 3 times they met in the regular season, all the games were decided by 2 points. And this is a game that Atlanta won by 4 points. So we're talking about matchups. There's just something about them that's so close. It should be noted that Atlanta led by 20 points at halftime of that last game, barely winning by 4 points. This could go 6 or 7 games. Trae Young is playing the best basketball of his career. Atlanta's very hot. I know Tom talked about it when we were picking the Hawks-Knicks series. The Hawks are better than their record because Nate McMillan, when he took over as head coach, they've been rolling since that happened. I do think that the 76ers are going to win this series simply because of Joel Embiid. The question mark was, how healthy is he going to be? Well, that game 1, 39 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Embiid looked healthy long-term. That's good for the Sixers. I think if he stays healthy, the 76ers win this in 6 or 7 games. If Embiid does get hurt, though, I think Atlanta then has the advantage. But I'm going to give Embiid the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say he's going to be healthy this time, and I'll pick Philly to come back and win this series.
Yeah, I circled Joel Embiid's health as the biggest key to this series as well. Looked pretty good for most of the game. It looked like he kind of landed a little awkward on a contested shot towards the end of the game. So we'll see if that has any sort of repercussions. The thing is, with Joel Embiid, for whatever reason, when most players come back from an injury, we say, okay, he's done with that. With Joel Embiid, it's kind of perpetually we're unsure of that, which is what makes this series, again, a really, really difficult one to try and pick. I mean, I think that Joel Embiid, like, healthy is the best player, but Trae Young is certainly the most exciting and might be playing at his best of any player in this series right now. I think that there's kind of that tired mythos around the Madison Square Garden and everything like that. I think it's over exaggerated, but there's still like a kernel of wisdom or a kernel of truth in that, where Trae Young did go out on the biggest stage, on what people call the Mecca of basketball, and just performed out of his mind for an entire series, and had a lot of fun doing it too. It wasn't lost on me, the little bow at the end. He enjoys playing the villain a little bit, and I think he's going to enjoy trying to play the villain in this series as well. If I knew Embiid were completely healthy, I'd say Sixers in 6 games. Not knowing for sure, though, I think maybe eking out a Game 7 win for Philly. I think it's that close of a series.
Yeah, I think it'll be Philly in 7 as well. But yeah, that one should be a good series to watch. It's on the East Coast, so this game should start a little earlier for me.
Drew might be watching that series real quickly, and I don't take this comparison to mean that it's an exact comparison, because it's certainly a lower comparison. But Trae Young reminds me of what we saw with Stephen Curry, maybe his third year in the league. I can't talk. Against the Nuggets, had a breakthrough series in the playoffs, and he kind of really took off for the rest of his career. I don't think Trae Young is going to be as good as Stephen Curry, but it kind of reminds me of that in that same way, because Trae Young has the talent. He can pass, he can shoot, he can dribble. For him, it's about putting it together consistently. And we've now seen it 6 straight games, and shining in New York, shining in Philadelphia, these in the playoffs. This is where your career gets built. I think Trae Young has a lot of swag. I think Trae Young also has a chip on his shoulder, because he's not Luka Doncic. He's never going to be as good as Luka Doncic. But a lot of people are calling out that pick. Like, you could have had Luka Doncic instead of Trae Young. And Trae Young is sitting over here saying, well, you know what? Maybe, but I'm also pretty good. So Trae Young is looking like Stephen Curry from a few years back, maybe a poor man Stephen Curry. But I'm very impressed with what I've seen with him. And really, the story about these playoffs, it's going to be about teams and players doing something they haven't done before. You look at the 76ers with Embiid and Simmons. They have a lot of talent. They haven't been able to make the NBA Finals. They haven't taken that next step. You look at Giannis. He hasn't taken that next step. He hasn't been able to get to the next level. You look at the Jazz. The Jazz have been very good for the last few years. They haven't even made the Western Conference Finals. They've got to take that next step. So it's a lot of unproven teams, a lot of unproven players in the playoffs, a lot of unproven franchises. I simply like the Nets because they have Durant and Irving, guys we've seen in the NBA Finals, guys we've seen deliver. Also, James Harden, if he comes back, has a big chip on his shoulder. So they're the most proven team. But what makes this exciting is that none of these teams are proven. None of these teams are really basketball powerhouses. None have delivered in the recent years. So it'll be a matter of seeing who can shine on that biggest stage. And Trae Young is certainly taken to that limelight. We'll see how the rest of the players do.
All right, moving on to the gridiron NFL. Julio Jones traded to the Tennessee Titans a couple days ago. Huge trade in the NFL. Guys, what do you think? Are the Titans the favorites in the NFC to make the Super Bowl? How is the move?
In the AFC. Tom, go ahead. You want to?
Sure, AFC.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are still in the AFC, right? I mean, it's
right.
kind of hard to go against them as the favorites. I think this puts Tennessee squarely on the same level as Buffalo, as that next team, next most likely team to threaten the reign that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are on right now. I mean, Julio gives them an embarrassment of riches on offense. You've got a pretty good quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, who now has just another weapon to whom he can throw. You've got A.J. Brown, Julio Jones. I'm blanking on the second receiver last year, who's now the third receiver. And of course, I haven't even mentioned yet Derrick Henry, an incredible running back. The issue, the shortcoming for the Titans is going to be that defense. That defense was a sieve last season. But if they can just make the other team score just a couple points fewer, the Titans are definitely going to be an exciting team to watch, and definitely going late into, what was that, January? Late into the playoffs in January.
Yeah, first off, the first thing that sticks out to me in this trade is the Titans absolutely won this trade. They didn't have to give up a first-round pick. They're giving up a second-round pick for next year, and then 2023 a fourth-round pick, and they're getting Jones and a sixth-round pick in 2023. So a huge win for Tennessee. Julio Jones last season, 86 yards a game, only played nine games, still the seventh best in the NFL. You pair him with A.J. Brown, you've got that veteran star and that young emerging star, Derrick Henry in the backfield. This offense was already fourth in the NFL in points per game last year, and Ryan Tannehill was even convincing Tom Castleman that's how good he's played, because he used to be one of those guys that Tom wasn't as high on. Now he's convincing everyone. But the problem, you said it, Tom, you're right. It's their defense. They were already fourth in points last season. Their defense among the worst in the AFC and the NFL. So, I mean, the Chiefs are definitely the favorite. No question about it. The Chiefs are the team to beat. I agree exactly what you said. I think it puts Tennessee right on that same level as the Bills. Don't forget that this Titans team was in the AFC title game 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, they lost in the first round, a close game against the Ravens. I don't know. I mean, I think they've got to be maybe three. I tend to lean Buffalo maybe slightly ahead of them, but Tennessee is a 2-3 option in the AFC. I think they've improved their team. I think it's a big move for them. And I mean, it's a big move for Julio, but that's a place that his numbers may go down a little bit. So it shows that he wants to win. Although, of course, when you get traded, it's not really all in your control where you go exactly. As far as Atlanta, I think they could have gotten a little more in return, but at least they got him out of their conference. So that's a good thing. And I guess Georgia and Tennessee aren't that far from each other geographically. So
No.
sort of a close geographical move. So I mean, I like it for Julio. I think I saw that he might wear number 8, which is my favorite number. So that would be cool. So I mean, it's a good move for Julio. It's a good move for the Titans. An exciting move in the NFL. The AFC is just filled with talent right now. Even though the Bucs won the Super Bowl, there's so many talented teams and players in the AFC, and I'm definitely looking forward to watching NFL this season. It's going to be an exciting year, and Tennessee fans have a lot to be smiling about. That is for sure.
Yeah, really quickly, not only is Tennessee close to Georgia, they're actually adjacent to each other. I had to check that, but they're literally touching. So not that far of a move for Julio.
Sure. Absolutely. And if you want to get into more geography, he went to college in Alabama. That's probably not that far away either.
That also might be touching. Hang on, let me check real quick.
Geography.
Yes, they all touch. Yes.
Wonderful. Gotta love the connections.
They all border each other.
Yeah.
They all border each other. So not West Coast. I guess
Smart
NFL
Americans
games
who know our geography.
Yeah, as a Bulgarian, my world geography is pretty good. And my USA geography.
But your USA geography clearly isn't that good.
Well, it is good. I said they were close to each other. I just had to double check with Castleman.
I mean, I could be in Tennessee in 4 hours right now.
Wow. Well, alrighty then.
And North Carolina borders Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
There you go. Good. Anyway,
we'll have to do that test where you fill out the 50 states on the map. I think, and you have 10 minutes to do it. I think I got 46 out of 50 when I took it. I know I messed up Delaware or Rhode Island. I think I flipped them or something. So
that's a tough one. Vermont, New Hampshire could get me. Yeah. Otherwise, I think I do pretty good.
All righty. Well, I believe
moving on. Baseball, my NL Cy Young pick, Jacob deGrom, ERA well below 1, doing work on the field. Vlad Guerrero Jr. in line to get the Triple Crown, possibly. Which one's more likely, guys, as the season comes to an end in like, a year or 6 months. Triple Crown winner or ERA under 1?
Yeah, so I'm gonna set the stats for you. You know how much I love stats. That's what's so special about baseball. There's some incredible stats that you can see in baseball. By the way, an ERA under 1 has been achieved twice in the history of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Twice. And the best ever was 0.857 by Tim Keefe in 1880. Then Dutch Leonard in 1914, 0.961. And then the most recent one that was close, a guy that maybe you guys have heard of that isn't Tim Keefe or Dutch Leonard, would be Kirk Gibson in 1968, 1.123 ERA. So
Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson. Sorry.
Yeah. Kirk's the home run guy.
Yes, Kirk is the home run guy. And Kirk is the Dodgers home run guy when he hit it out 1 foot. Gibson is the Cardinals pitcher. My bad. I mixed those up. But you guys know what I'm saying, though. That speaks to what DeGrom is doing here. It's very unprecedented. The Triple Crown, by the way, we've seen 12 times. The last was in 2012 by Miguel Cabrera. But before that, we got to go all the way back to, I think it was 1967 by Carl Yastrzemski. So the Triple Crown is a little bit easier than sub-1 ERA. Vlad Guerrero right now leading in home runs and average, and he's 2 RBIs off the lead. I don't think either guy's going to get it just because that ERA is so low. You give up like 5 or 6 runs, your ERA like almost doubles. That's how well he's pitched. And I think Vlad Guerrero obviously needs guys to get on base for the RBI.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the sub-1 ERA is more impressive because we've seen it less often. And I think it's slightly more likely just because DeGrom holds it in his own keys. Like, he doesn't have to rely on other guys being on base. But we're seeing some historic seasons in baseball, both on the mound and at the plate this year. And Shohei Ohtani, who we talked about last week, is doing both. So,
yeah, I think the Triple Crown is probably more likely to happen just because, Common, as you mentioned, both times that there was a sub-1 ERA, the words "the Great War" had never really been uttered in human history. This is prior to World War I, for crying aloud. You mentioned Bob Gibson in 1968. He's the closest in the modern era, and they had to lower the flippin' mound after that season because so many pitchers were doing so well. For proper context on Jacob DeGrom, we can look at 2 pitchers in the modern era. We've got Dwight Gooden, 42nd in MLB with a season-long ERA at 1.53. The only other person is Greg Maddux at 1.56, but that was in the strike-shortened season of 1994. So really only 2 pitchers have done it over a full season in modern era, and one of them was before they made the mound shorter than what it was. So I think it's more impressive if Jacob DeGrom is able to do that, especially when you consider how prevalent arm injuries can be. That's much more likely to derail him than I think a shortage of people getting on base for Vlad Guerrero Jr. to drive him in. I know DeGrom's already had one short stint where he missed a couple of starts, and he's had some injury issues in the past. Here's hoping that that doesn't happen because it would be fascinating to see, best pitcher we've seen in a while and by a long chalk. Try to go for this mark. I don't think we're going to see either of them happen, but I think definitely the sub-1 ERA is more impressive.
What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, how many starts have DeGrom had in this year?
I want to say maybe like 7 or 8. I know he missed a couple.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember back in the day, I think it was 2010, Ubaldo Jimenez, he had a .78 ERA through 11 starts. Of course, it quickly, after he made the All-Star game and whatnot, it quickly soared through the roof. But yeah, that was impressive. So I've got to go with DeGrom. Very impressive to have a sub-1 ERA after however many starts he's had this season. Of course, doesn't get any help on the offensive end with his team. I don't know what place the Mets are in, but maybe it's.
Are they?
Oh, they are. Oh, goodness gracious! I think they're my World Series pick as well. So good for the Mets. I guess
there you go.
Hit on them early on here.
Yeah. So Jacob DeGrom has started 9 games for the Mets. I know pitcher wins and losses doesn't really indicate much as a statistic, and here's why: he has a .62 ERA. He's 5-2. He's lost 2 games, giving up fewer than 1 run per 9 innings. That's ridiculous.
That is really bad. I mean, that's That reminds me of our show when we had the Mr. ERA argument with Drew Brackett.
Oh yeah, Mr. ERA,
And
CC Sabathia, and some other guy who I
it was
can't remember.
Felix
Felix
Hernandez.
yeah.
King Felix had like the best ERA in the American League, and there's Drew Brackett arguing about CC Sabathia because he had 20-something wins on a stacked Yankees team. And sure enough, if we were arguing that now, people have come around to my way of thinking that earned run average is way more important than wins, as something's going on in Drew Brackett's room. Who knows?
Oh, dude, it's raining cats and dogs. I'll probably lose power. We'll see.
Let's hope
hopefully not. Yeah.
Well, in that case, this will be my show for the week. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Excellent.
Lights flickering. Better move on to tennis.
Yeah, better move on to tennis. You got Roger Federer back there. I got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead. French Open. Roger Federer had to withdraw due to injury. It's Nadal's to lose as always. But comment, what's the significance of this Federer injury?
Yeah, you said it. It's Nadal's to lose as always. 13 French Open titles. Hasn't lost a set yet. Djokovic just had to play a 5-set match. So Nadal versus the field is a safe bet. As far as Federer, he made it to the round of 16, and this was only his third tournament in the last 16 months. His first major. He had 2 knee surgeries over an year of rehab, and he made the decision to withdraw after a 3-hour, 38-minute, tough, contested 4-set win for him. I think he always saw this. I watched an interview with him last week after his second round win. He said that, he didn't have any chance to win the French Open. He said that he was getting ready for Wimbledon. I still would have liked to see him play just because I love watching Federer play. But from his perspective, I definitely understand why he pulled out. So we can be more well-rested for Wimbledon, a tournament he has a chance to win. That's his tournament. That's his court. And had he won one more match, he would have probably played Djokovic in the quarters. And that probably would not have ended well at the moment. So Roger Federer, a huge storyline, just seeing him back at the majors, like seeing his awesome shots he hits. He doesn't have the same consistency that he did, but if you watch a match, you will see 3 or 4 shots every match that you're just like, wow, I can't believe that happened. Guy's going to turn 40 soon. It's impressive what he did in that tournament. And just watching his interviews, he is one of the most well-composed athletes. As someone who's worked in the media, we value interviews. We think of like, well, that guy's a good interview. Well, Federer, one of the announcers said it. You put a microphone next to his mouth, and the guy is just going to give you brilliance every time. So really exciting to see him go there. Just an exciting tournament on the men's side. I'll ask you guys if you have anything to add, because I want to talk a little bit about the women's side after as well.
Well, actually, I don't really have anything to add, but I do have a question as far as Federer with his health issues. So my understanding is like going into a long match like that takes a heavy toll, but like he had to have expected like there was going to be a physical toll on Wimbledon or on the French Open. Why would he come back for a tournament early if maybe he would have been better off? Like, would he have been better off just going straight for Wimbledon and not coming back yet? Did he come back too soon? Was that an error on his part?
No, actually it wasn't, because he actually came back a few months ago. He played a tournament, played 2 matches, was tired, took a rest for a little bit, and then came back, played 1 tournament, and then lost early. Then he played in this tournament. He needs to get some matches under his belt for Wimbledon. He also needs to have some, a major. It's a different feeling. It's better players, different environment. I think on his part, it was a good decision. Actually, if you listen to him talk, he made it a little bit further than he expected. So maybe when he entered the tournament, he thought he might have lost earlier. So I think it was a good experience for him for sure. And I think he'll be ready for Wimbledon. I mean, it's going to be hard to win, but I'm certainly hoping for Roger for sure.
Cool. And then what do you have for the women's side? Unless, Drew, you have something to add for the tennis.
No, I mean, it's Nadal's to lose. Women's side, I saw Serena lost, so I think that was your pick, Common, I believe. I'm not sure.
Tom's.
And mine, yeah.
Oh, and Tom's. My player is still in it. How do we pronounce her name? You guys were on that last week. What was it?
It's Swiatek.
It's close, and okay. I might be off a little. It's Iga Swiatek.
Swiatek, that was right. Yeah, there's a little N sound. Yeah.
Well, Iga Swiatek won 6-3, 6-4 in the 4th round, so she will move on to the next round, and it's probably the quarterfinals, actually.
Yes, correct. And that's what's incredible. This is one of the craziest things we've ever seen in the history of any major, what we've witnessed on the women's side. She is the 8th seed. She's the only top 10 seed left in this
Mm.
tournament. We had Ashley Barty, Serena Williams, Sabalenka, Kenin, Svitolina, all losing, all top 10 seeds losing before the quarterfinals. Of course, we had Naomi Osaka dropping out before the tournament started. We had Simona Halep is out injured. I mean, this is just a crazy bracket. And your pick, Iga Swiatek, she's got all these players who are unseeded, seeded in the 20s or 30s. I think there's maybe one other person who's like 17th or something, but she's got to really like her draw right now. Certainly, I think she's got to be the heavy favorite to win. Certainly, if you listen to Drew Brackett and put some money on it last week, you might be coming out with some money. The player I would like to see win is Coco Gauff, the young American. She's the 24 seed. That's who I'm cheering for. But at this point, all these other top players are struggling, and Swiatek is dominating. So I think she's got to be the go-to pick. I actually watched a little bit of her match last week. She was after Federer, and she won like 6-1, 6-1 or something. And, I mean, she was cruising. She's a really good player. She's very young. I think she's like 20 or something. You may double check that, but she's really coming on the scene. And women's tennis is crazy because, certainly 5-6 years ago, Serena was the top and no one was close. But now, women's tennis, there isn't a top player. It seems like every tournament, it's rotating. You're ready to say that, oh, look, Osaka's now number one. It's like, oh, Barty's number one. Oh, Simona Halep is number one. There really is no number one. So pretty much every tournament, it's up for grabs for any one of these players. And the fact that it's the quarterfinals and we have no, one top 10 player in the world in the quarterfinals, that tells you enough.
Love it. Well, we'll look forward to the French Open final. That's probably coming up on Sunday, would be my guess. So
I think the men are on Sunday, the women on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Moving on to soccer, though, I think the U.S. men's team actually won a game. Have they qualified for the World Cup, or are they going to miss out again as they usually do?
First off, they don't usually miss out. They missed out last World Cup. They had made a bunch of World Cups in a row, maybe 4 or 5. Of course, it is CONCACAF. It's one of the easiest regions to make the World Cup out of. It's not the same as Europe and South America. Pretty much Mexico's top dog, and everyone else isn't very good. USA not that far behind in second place. But guess what? The young American stars are looking to supplant Mexico as the top team in CONCACAF region. They played the inaugural CONCACAF Nations League tournament, and they beat Mexico last night 3-2 in the final. And America has so much young talent. Christian Pulisic just won with Chelsea the Champions League. Serginho Dest plays for Barcelona, was mostly a starter this last season. Weston McKennie saw a lot of minutes at Juventus. Claudio Reyna over at Borussia Dortmund. Or not Claudio Reyna, Gio Reyna. Claudio Reyna was his dad who played on that 0-2 USA team that made the quarterfinals. It's an exciting team, and last night was one of the all-time craziest games in the history that I've ever seen. I mean, it was nuts. I'll recap it real quickly. Like, it was basically Mexico takes a 1-0 lead just about a minute into the game. USA ties it up 1-1 at the half. Mexico goes up 2-1 in the 79th minute. USA then ties it up 2-2 in the 82nd minute. We go to extra time where things get wild. 114th minute, controversial penalty. The USA gets lucky. Ref helps him out. Pulisic makes the penalty, goes up 3-2. Then Mexico, right before the game's about to end, a makeup call on VAR. The ref gives Mexico a penalty, and USA's backup goalie, who went in the second half, the backup goalie going in, Ethan Horvath for the injured. Zach Steffen makes the save, the penalty save. USA beats Mexico. And I'll have more on this in Statement of the Week. I'm going to pull this up on Twitter, actually, what this guy tweeted, because there was so much more going on in the game. Really unruly fans. Looks like most of them were Mexican fans, but you never know, Mexican-American fans. Just disgusting behavior. I'll have more on that in Statement of the Week. But this is basically what I saw on Twitter. This is just some of the things that happened after the 80th minute of the USA-Mexico soccer game. USA ties the game in the 82nd minute. Then there was a fight between the players. The game was paused during stoppage time due to a homophobic chant, which absolutely awful. Then a fan ran onto the CBS set on live TV. Then VAR gave the USA a penalty shot in extra time. Then Mexico's coach, Tato Martina, former Argentina coach, got a red card for touching the ref during the review of VAR. Then Pulisic gave the USA the lead on the ensuing penalty in extra time. Then a USA bench player was injured during the celebration by a flying bottle. And I don't know if it was USA fans celebrating. I think it was actually Mexico fans mad at the referee. They were throwing bottles on the court, on the field rather. Gio Reyna got hit. A Mexican player got hit with the water bottle. Absolutely unacceptable. Then VAR gives Mexico a penalty shot in stoppage time of extra time. If they make it, we go to penalties. Instead, USA's backup goalie saves it. USA wins 3-2. There was also a pitch invader on the field after that. I mean, it was one of those just insane games.
It's almost exciting enough to make me want to watch soccer. But even still, just now.
Well, I'll tell you this.
It was too late for me.
It was. I think it was an 8:00 kick with the extra time and all the stoppage time and the stops because of the inappropriate chants. That game ended at about 11 o'clock or so, and that was probably like midnight Drew time. So maybe you guys will watch it next time. But more good soccer coming. This next week, the European Championships coming up, and then we've got the Copa America also coming up. Real quick preview on the Euros. I'll make my pick. You guys can if you want. Some of the favorites are France, Belgium, Portugal, England. Also, Germany and Spain are always in the mix. A fairly wide open tournament, but I'm going to go with France, the defending World Cup champions of 2018. I think they're the best team of the world. No weaknesses, so much depth. Conte makes all sorts of plays in midfield. He runs all over the field, defense, offense. He controls the game. And what's scary about that France team is in 2018, they won the World Cup, but Kylian Mbappe has improved since then. Their young star. He's way better than he was back then. And then they added Karim Benzema at forward. Benzema hadn't played on the national team in years because of off-the-field issues. Clearly good enough to play on the team. Him and the coach worked something out because they had him, and that was a big get for them. So, I mean, it's going to be exciting. I like France winning the Euros, like they won the World Cup. We saw Spain do it in 2010 and then 2012, and France did it in 98 and 2000. So look for more of the same in the Euros. Are you guys going to watch this? Any predictions?
I'm not going to watch, but I will make a prediction on the winner. You all know that time old schoolyard chants. I've seen London. I've seen France. I see Belgium winning the Euro Cup championship as an underdog.
All right. Belgium is not such a heavy underdog, by the way.
That's well done.
They are ranked number 1 in the world right now in the FIFA rankings, but we'll see. They never delivered. They're like chokers. They're basically like the Sixers or the Clippers, a team with talent, a team that hasn't had very much historical success, but then they have choked in recent years. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, I'll lift a waffle to their success then.
Man, wow.
Drew, are you gonna pick Portugal because they have Ronaldo just to annoy me?
No, I'm looking at the groups, and Group F is where France, Germany, Portugal is. That's a group of death, if you ask me.
Yeah,
so
it sure is.
Please, you don't want to pick somebody in that one like you just did. I'll go with our friends across the Atlantic. England, give me England to win the Euro.
England have such a great young team.
Sure.
That would mean so much to that country. Honestly, England might be my second pick if I were picking this tournament. They've got quite the roster. Copa America also going to start.
Give us a preview.
Yeah, the South American Championships. You guys know my guy, Lionel Messi, is playing for Argentina. All sorts of drama on and off the field surrounding this Copa America tournament. This was originally supposed to be played in Argentina and Colombia as co-hosts. Colombia pulling out because of COVID cases. Then Argentina pulls out because of COVID cases. Then there was rumors they'd move it to the U.S. Instead, they gave it to Brazil. And A lot of people are saying that it's controversy because they say CONMEBOL favors Brazil. They're the champs from 2 years ago. Then all of a sudden, the Brazil players, some of them didn't want to play. They were going to protest the president and the COVID cases. Brazil wasn't even going to play in it. Now they're saying Brazil's going to play. Looks like as of now, the tournament is on. Brazil is certainly the favorite. They won it a couple years ago without Neymar. Their star player was even hurt. They won without him anyways. Brazil was the top dog in South America. They have been throughout most of the history. But I'm going to pick Argentina just because I want to pick Argentina. I love Lionel Messi, the greatest soccer player of all time, maybe the greatest athlete of all time. He's won everything with Barcelona. He's won everything with Argentina in terms of the Olympics and the youth level. He has not won the international trophy yet with Argentina. 4 second-place finishes, 3 at the Copa America, 1 at the World Cup. I think Brazil stumbles at some point. Argentina gets a lucky break. Messi shines. Argentina and Messi lift the Copa America this year.
I don't know why, but I just have a predisposition to not wanting to cheer for the Brazilians. I'm not sure if it's from like some World Cup of years past or whatever, but I'll pull on the same end of the rope with you, Common. I'll take Argentina and Messi as well.
Yes! Yes!
I'm taking Brazil. No brainer, Brazil. There's no way they lose this tournament. Argentina not going to win. Give me Uruguay over, Argentina in that group. Even though I know multiple teams make it in the groups.
Yeah, it's crazy because it was also originally supposed to be 12 teams in the tournament, 2 pulling out who weren't in South America. So it's a weird setup where there's 2 groups of 5 and 4 out of 5 make it out of the group. So it's like you're almost guaranteed the quarterfinals unless you're like last place in each group. So, but Brazil and Argentina.
Maybe it'd be more interesting to pick who's going to not advance.
Probably Bolivia and who else was?
I just had it up. Let's see.
Venezuela. Bolivia and Venezuela will be my picks.
You think? Let's see. Yeah, I think Venezuela. Chile's not great.
Chile's pretty good. They won this, by the way, 2 of the last 3 tournaments, but they're past their time for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to agree with the Bolivia pick then.
Yeah. Bolivia plays at altitude. This tournament will not be played at altitude. So that's their home court, home field advantage. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of good soccer to watch. This is going to be fun in the summer. About the next month. I think it starts like Friday. It'll go on for about a month. Also, real quickly, I'd be remiss to not mention hockey. I think we'll probably start talking hockey maybe every week until we end the season here coming up. The Avalanche and Vegas Golden Knights are tied 2-2 in their second round series. Tom and I, of course, picked Vegas to win it all. Drew picked Colorado. And those are the 2 teams with the best records in the league. But because of the revised playoff format, they're actually meeting in the second round. So that'll be fun to watch. It's kind of an exciting time if you think about it. NBA, NHL winding down. We've got these soccer tournaments. Of course, we always have baseball this time of year. And the Olympics. Soon we'll be talking Olympics as well. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the locks. I know it was tough for you to find all my games, but I think you found them all. Yes.
Yeah, there was one of the ones I didn't really understand what you were saying. I'll be honest. And then it's really weird because some of those teams, like in the second divisions, have like 2 names. So sometimes when you say the name, they like pop up differently. So I did finally discover your pick.
Well, how do you look for them? Because I just Google the league and then I look at the day and then it's like, well, it's one of these teams. What sounds the closest to what Drew said? Like
that's what I did, but I don't know. One of these teams just sounded different and they had used a different name. I'm not sure what I was doing, but anyways, the one game that I had issue finding was actually the game that Drew missed. The only game that he missed. Busan iPark versus Gyeongguk, or however you say it, under 2 goals. That game went 3-2, 5 goals in that game. He got the J2 League. He had under 2.5. Irubu Koshu versus Ubelbiwata, 2-0 final. Then the Brazilian League, Kawaba versus Fluminense. I don't know how I'm pronouncing these names right. I'm not. But under 2.5
We'll just go with it.
goals. Fluminense wins 1-0. Drew 2-1 on the week. He's just about even me up on record. I was 1-2.
Is it even or just about even?
Well, Tom likes to
Castleman, what do you think?
Percentage points.
So we have the percentage
even.
points. You're
We're
both
even
at 48.98%. So Common has one more correct pick, but Drew, you have a couple of draws, so you have one fewer loss. So it all evens out in the wash.
Yeah, we're even. We're even. This week I'll go 3-0.
Of course.
Above 500. Clearly first place. But anyways, last week I had the Red Sox over the Astros. Got that one right. Red Sox winning 5-1. Lakers -2 over the Suns. Lakers losing by 13. Of course, at the time, I didn't know that Anthony Davis was going to get hurt again. Tom advised me against betting on Anthony Davis's health. I didn't listen, and I lost, and I had Blazers -5 over the Nuggets. The Nuggets winning by 11. The Blazers were up like 14 points in the third quarter in that game. Really blowing it for me. Tom Castleman, all of a sudden, right behind us. Now, Tom, by the way, you don't have the ties, so you are in third place, but you actually are tied with me for most wins. We both have the same amount of wins.
One more. I've got 47.
What did you have your record? 47 and what?
And 52.
I'd have to check my records. I hear you 46 and 53. Maybe we'll talk after the show. Nonetheless,
I have no idea where the error could be, where the discrepancy could be.
Yeah, I mean, it may be the fact that I had a weekend trip in Galena and I was a little tired this morning, so probably trust you on that pick. Nonetheless, you're just behind us all of a sudden in another good week. 2-1 week for Tom Castleman. Let's see. I lost track of where the picks were. Here we go. Nets -4 over the Bucks. Nets winning by 8. That was a good pick. I listened to you on that one. Royals over the Twins. Correct. The Royals winning 6-5. Yankees -1.5 over the Rays. That didn't go well. The Rays won 9-2. So just another really good week for the show, though. We've been doing 2-1, all of us, a lot in recent weeks. Certainly hitting our groove. Castleman the most of the three of us. What do we have this week, guys?
Let's see. I'll go ahead and get started with some baseball tonight. Let's go for a little bit of plus money. Why don't we? How about we take the Kansas City Royals on the money line +135 over the Angels? I believe it is Dylan Bundy going for the Angels. He has an ERA over 6. He has a FIP, I believe, over 5, just not playing well at all. I think the reason why the Royals are plus money is because they have somebody making a major league debut today for them. So I'll take the Royals on plus money on that and cross my fingers that that'll go well. In about 15 minutes from right now, and certainly well after the show is over, we'll have the Nets and the Bucks game. I'll go ahead and take the Nets again +1 at home. So it has not yet started. So I'll take the Nets on that to beat the Bucks. And then I'll take tomorrow. I'll go to baseball. I'll take the Oakland Athletics covering 1.5 runs over the Diamondbacks at -105. Chris Bassett on the mound for the Oakland Athletics, and then somebody named John Duplantier going for the Diamondbacks. He has an ERA over 9 this season. He's a negative WAR player. So I like the first place Oakland Athletics over the not first place Arizona Diamondbacks.
Great picks this week, Tom. I might be talking about some of the same games as you, by the way.
How many are we the same on?
Well, we're the same on one, but
Okay.
I also picked a similar game to you. So I'll just go ahead real quickly since you just went. Let me get my sip of water first. All right, here we go. Locks of the week for Common and Chev. I agree 150,000%. Throw your mortgage on this one. Nets +1 against the Bucks.
We lost it already. The game isn't even tipped off yet. Why are you doing this to us?
We have lost it because my mortgage bets are not always the best. But this mortgage bet will go right. Nets +1 versus the Bucks. All because James Harden isn't going to play. Guess what? James Harden played 1 minute in game 1. And they won by 8 without him. The Nets won by 8 without James Harden at home. They're a home underdog against the Bucks. Are you kidding me? Durant, as I said this earlier in the show, is still better than Giannis. He can make the outside shots. Their second option, Kyrie Irving, is better than Chris Middleton, who's the Bucks' number 2 option. Nets are also at home. James Harden makes the Nets the best team by far. Without James Harden, they're still the best team. I still like Durant and Irving. They took care of business in game 1 without James Harden. I don't see why they wouldn't take care of business in game 2. I mean, essentially, all we're asking for here is a Nets win straight up. So I like the Nets winning straight up. That to me is one of the top 2 or 3 best lines we've had all year on this show. So that's the one that you got to look out for, the Nets over the Bucks there. That's an easy pick. And staying with that same game, I like the under, 237. That is an insanely high over-under. I know both of these teams are amazing on offense. I know both aren't great on defense. I know they had some high-scoring games in the regular season, but in the postseason, things slow down just a little bit. You get to like really scout the team a little bit more. The defensive intensity just increases a little bit more. And in that first game they played, they had 222 total points between the two teams. So, and the fact that James Harden isn't playing actually leads me to believe there's going to be less points because James Harden is such a great offensive player, such a great facilitator, and if anything, not that good on defense. Maybe him not playing actually helps the Nets defense a little bit. Certainly hurts their offense for sure, but it helps the cases for this game going under 237. Then the other game that Tom went with, Royals Angels. I've got another bet on that game. I was eyeing the Royals at that line just because you said it. Dylan Bundy's horrific. He's 0-6 with a 6.49 ERA. Jackson Kowar was dominating in the minor leagues under 1 ERA, but it is his first major league start. So really unknown. I'm not sure who's going to win that game, but I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored because Bundy himself allows 6.5 runs a game. You look at these two teams, both score about 4.5 runs a game. The Angels team ERA about 5, the Royals almost 4.5. So I've got over 9 runs. This was 8.5 runs earlier. It's moved to 9, but I still like it. I mean, pretty much every statistical metric, if you add up their teams, gets you to about 9 or 10 runs. And you've got a pitcher that's been horrendous for the Angels, and you've got a rookie for the Royals. So expect a lot of runs in that baseball game tonight. Over 9.
Wow. Well, I was going to go tennis tomorrow, but man, give me the Bucks -1. Just everything. Just give me that. That's a juicy line that I'm a big fan of. So I'll call an audible and take the Bucks -1. Then I'll go to Euro qualifying on Saturday. Wales versus Switzerland. It's going to be a heck of a game. Over-unders at 1.5. Give me the under at +130, under 1.5 in that contest. So looking forward to a lot of misses in that one. I know Common will be loving it. That's his favorite type of thing. And then Belgium, Russia. We'll actually try two good teams. Over-unders at 2.5. I'll take the under once again. I think Russia's very good on defense. Really, who knows, honestly. But give me the under. Oh, well, even more so, hammer the under on that one then.
Now, is that Switzerland-Wales game? Is that the Euros? I think it's the European Championship itself, or is it a qualifying game?
Oh, no. Well, let me look it up here. I'm not sure. Oh, my goodness. Euro 2020. Group A. Yeah.
That's what I thought it was. Interesting. Yeah. I will tell you this. That
is Russia and Belgium the same thing?
Yeah. It's the same thing. You just said European qualifying, and that's why I was confused.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah, I meant Euros.
You're good. No big deal. It is interesting that Wales and Switzerland both play really good defense that actually has a chance at hitting. Belgium, Russia, under 2.5. I don't think so. Belgium's got a high-powered offense. That one is just waiting to be wrong. But maybe you'll go.
Can't wait.
Maybe you'll go 1 and 2. We'll have to text on the group chat about this Nets-Bucks game since Tom and I are going one way, Drew's going another way. And I know Tom is probably feeling worse and worse about himself since I made a mortgage bet situation out of this.
I really do.
I mean, once you said that, I have to go the opposite. So I think there was one time where I don't know, it was like a White Sox game, and I completely disagree. But I didn't do it as my luck, and you guys actually won that one. So
Yeah, it was the 16-4, the one that
yeah,
Mercedes hit the home run
Hmm.
late and Tony La Russa whined about swinging on a 3-0 count. I remember that game vividly. Yeah,
of
I actually
course you
watched
do.
some of that. I watched some of that game. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens in our locks of the week.
I'm excited.
Statements,
I'm
salutes.
excited. Yeah, go ahead.
Castleman, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'll go for a salute to former Bear Greg Olson and his family. His son TJ uh, has a successful heart transplant over the weekends. His son is 8 years old. Posted a video on social media thanking everybody for the love and support. Obviously, Greg Olson being a former NFL player, I think former NFL player. I don't know if he's on a roster. But has a huge platform, a big following. So obviously, there's a lot of outreach, a lot of engagement on that. So always positive to see a story, especially with somebody who's so small, somebody who's so young, who hasn't really, lived a full life. It's a tragedy anytime that you have to have something, that you have an ailment that's going to lead to a heart transfer. But thankfully he was able to have one. And I guess if there's a statement, it's go become an organ donor. This is the sort of impact that you can have on somebody's life, where you can save a child, you can give them an opportunity at having a full, healthy, and just wonderful life. So that's the salute and statement of the week for me.
Love it.
Salute to Luka Doncic for his play during the Mavs Clippers series. Give him some talent, Mark Cuban. I mean, Porzingis and Tim Hardaway Jr. They're good, but you just need another guy. So hopefully the Mavs can find somebody else to help Luka out. And then Portland Trailblazers, Terry Stotts no longer with the team. Very classy goodbye by him. Yeah, again, I mean, just got beat by the Nuggets in the playoffs, so you got to give some help for Lillard and McCollum on that team.
Absolutely.
Do I hear a potential team up?
Yeah, sure.
Doncic and Lillard, wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be fun. I mean, Lillard would have to transition to shooting guard, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's very good at that.
Yeah,
by the 55 points.
he plays. I mean, he can pass the ball, but he's more of a shooting guard than a point guard already, I think, at least. Yeah, actually, by the way, really good job this week, guys. I agree with everything you said. Greg Olson, former Bear, by the way. I know he worked on TV for a little bit. I don't know him personally, but just everything I've seen, just interviews on TV and stuff, seems like a really good guy. So exciting for him. Luka, he needs the help. And there's actually reports out of Dallas that Porzingis is saying that he feels like he's not really a co-star. He feels sort of overshadowed by Doncic, which is, I mean, I guess that's true, but Porzingis really has sort of taken a step back. Like Porzingis, if he really realizes potential, a big guy who can shoot and, get blocks and everything. If you look at his shot blocking, it's way down compared to what it was when he first came in the league. So he should be a good co-star, but he's not. So I agree. Doncic needs a lot of help, and I would like to see him get it because he's becoming a top 3 player in the league the way he's playing lately.
I don't know if I've ever seen a player that large play so small. Like Kristaps Porzingis does not play like he's 7'3" and just like go down on the block and like with his touch, be able to have like a pretty good post game, but he just doesn't play like it. Like it should have been a massive mismatch against the Clippers, and just he never takes advantage of that, it seems.
Yeah, you got to use your height. I mean, it's one thing that you could shoot the ball. I'm not saying he shouldn't shoot the ball, but he does need to go in the paint sometime and use his size, and not even necessarily like even only like post up like a big guy. He can do like a fadeaway jumper. I mean, he can shoot over the top of anybody. So that's a guy that really is not playing as well as he should. So we'll see what happens with him. We'll see what happens with Doncic, but certainly just another phenomenal season for Luka and a guy that really does shine in the playoffs. But he's kind of been asked to do it alone. He nearly beat Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on his own. So my statement of the week, I'm sick and tired of fans. Fans in sports. I was gonna do it last week, but I'm gonna do it this week because it just keeps coming up, and it's driving me nuts. I think Fans need to be respectful. I think that you should receive a lifetime ban from arena on your first offense, because until we really put these laws down, these fans are going to act like hooligans, and they should be put on some sort of database where they're in like Ticketmaster or like all the different databases. You must register your name. They look up their past games they've attended, and they can have like a record, like much like a driving record and a criminal record, because this is getting out of hand. This USA Mexico game, I talked about how exciting the game was, but the fans, it was not exciting. We had fans chanting homophobic things. We had to stop the game because of that. Then we had fans throwing water bottles at the players, at the refs. We've had various things in the NBA recently with popcorn and bottles and everything. In soccer, we have so many issues with racist chants and stuff like that. There's no room for racism in sports among fans. There's no room for violence. There's no room for any of this stuff. And the fact that, and part of it is we are coming off a pandemic. People are a little wound up. They're a little crazy, and they're releasing it. But no matter how bad of a call a referee makes, or how bad of a play a player makes, or no matter how mad you are, you stay in your seat. You don't throw anything. You can boo. You can boo. Mm-hmm. Booing is fine, but you don't chant racist things. You don't chant homophobic things. You don't throw stuff on the court, and you don't run on the field either. I don't even find streakers and people who run on the field. That's not no, get a life. If you do that type of stuff, you need to be put in jail for a few weeks, and you need a lifetime ban at these arenas. And some of these places are already doing this, but I think we need to take it a step further. There needs to be some sort of national database for ticket sales where these fans are not, you cannot get away with this. You cannot be throwing stuff at players on the field. Absolutely disgusting. So I'd like to see fans get punished for just this horrendous behavior we continue to see.
Yeah, it's a shame that people, some people who buy tickets to events feels that gives them free license to do whatever they feel to whomever they feel, completely, ignoring or disregarding the fact that, the people that they paid good money to come see entertain them, they feel also it gives them license to abuse them if they so choose. So yeah, definitely a shame on that for sure.
Yeah, and think about it this on the street. I mean, that's assault. You can literally get charged with assault for throwing something at someone on the street, or hate speech, for making racist comments and stuff like that. I mean, literally, if this happened on the street, you could go to jail and you could be in big trouble. But in the context of an arena, somehow, and a lot of people are mad about it, but I think that we need to do more, because we can't have this. It just cannot happen.
Well,
anyways,
on that
note, that does it for Salute Your Sports Week 35. We've got to get ready to watch that big basketball game tonight. Drew on the all in on the Bucks. Castleman and I all in on the Nets. It is going to be an exciting basketball game. I can't remember being this pumped up for a second round NBA playoff game in a while. I'm going to get my popcorn. I got some good flavored popcorn at Galena on my trip with my girlfriend. Some cherry cheesecake flavored popcorn. Pop that in. Yeah, exactly.
That sounded wonderful to disastrous. Like, what?
Cherry cheesecake popcorn. It's delicious. The Great American Popcorn Company in Galena, Illinois. Castleman, you ought to make a trip there and try out some cherry cheesecake popcorn. I promise you, it'll be well worth it. So should all the listeners and viewers. Have a great one, everyone.